Pistons and Magic. Well, last time I was on the air, it was going into Game 5. So I knew the next time I'd be on the air, there was, obviously, we didn't, would the Pistons still be alive? Would they be eliminated? Well, they're still alive. Getting a big, much-needed win, 116-109 at home. Easily the most offensive game of the series. Many of these games under 100 points, which is weird. At least one of these teams held under 100 points. But in Game 5, Pistons, not only did they play well, pretty much wire to wire, did what they needed to do. They led wire to wire. Orlando never had the lead once, but the Pistons, for once, got off to a great start. Couldn't have asked for a much better first quarter. Able to build an early double-digit lead, and that's exactly what the Pistons needed. They needed something like that because consistently in this series, it's where they, start behind the 8 ball a little bit. And they need to fight back from usually an early deficit. But no, they were the ones dictating the pace early on. Orlando was able to hang in there. Pistons built a lead of as many as 17 points, but Orlando able to chip into that. A little bit of a late run going into halftime, which made me a little bit nervous because that was a huge momentum swing in Game 4, was the Pistons actually started to build a pretty decent lead in the second quarter of that one before Orlando went on a huge run and went into halftime with the lead, and then they were able to just pretty much maintain that for the rest of the game, besides a late push by the Pistons. But not the case in this one. The Pistons able to weather that storm and able to just pretty much maintain the rest of the game. Even though it was pretty much even the rest of the way, that great start can do you wonders. So final score 116-109. And this was a pretty fun one-on-one duel between Cade Cunningham and Paolo Banchero, the number 1 overall picks in the 2021 and 2022 NBA drafts, going back and forth. But Cade Cunningham, he needed this one. He'll be the first to tell you that he is needed to play much better in this series, has not been shooting particularly well. High rate of turnovers. I mean, he still did turn the ball over 6 times. Only got 5 assists. But, man, what a scoring night. 45 points, 13 of 23 from the floor. Made all 14 free throws. And was 5 of 8 from downtown. But on the other side of the floor for the Magic, you had Paolo Banchero also finishing with 45 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. 17 of 31 shooting, 5 of 12 free throws, which is brutal. He's kicking himself for that one. And then 6 of 11 from 3. So that was a very fun, very entertaining matchup individually for those two guys. These two stars really stepping up. I know Banchero will probably also be the first one to tell you that he needs to play a lot better in this series, even though his team coming into this game was getting the job done, led 3-1 going into this. He's been having a pretty poor shooting series as well, including games 3 and 4, 6 of 17 and then 4 of 18. But the Pistons as a team, they needed this offense. That's what's been lacking this whole series for this Pistons team. The offense hasn't been there. Defense has been great. Even in this game, 109 points for the Magic. The only real Achilles heel in that one was the Magic shooting 45% from 3. But I've been pleased with the Pistons defense the entire playoffs. It's just their offense not showing up. That can make the defense look worse than it actually is, which is really great. But the Pistons sorely needed 49% shooting from the floor as a team, which is a lot better than the 30s we've been accustomed to seeing. 36% from 3, which isn't horrible. Made 80% of free throws, which, of course, as I mentioned, 14 of 14 from the line for Cade. They had a +8 advantage on the rebounds, not only the rebounds in general, but specifically the offensive rebounds. But despite that, only a +1 edge on the second chance points, which have been a killer for the Pistons in this series. The Magic getting several second chance opportunities, way too many than you'd like. Pistons also +12 points in the paint, which you like to see, which they really need to dominate the rest of the way if they want to pull off this 3-1 comeback. And then 22 points for the Magic on 17 Pistons turnovers. Pistons only had 19 off of Magic's 16 turnovers, so pretty even in the turnover battle. But no, the Pistons needed this, especially getting off to a good start. This is what I've been waiting for all series long, the Pistons to get off to a good start, but it just has not happened until this game. And then in the 4 games prior, it was really just that one single quarter, that third quarter of game 2, where the Pistons went on a 30-3 run. That was the only stretch of dominance we've seen by the Pistons in this series, which you would have expected more for a 1 versus 8 matchup. And even after getting punched in the mouth in game 1, I thought it was like, all right, they know they need to take this a little bit more seriously, need to get it in gear. But after that run in the second half of game 2, just did not carry over into games 3 and 4. The Magic came back with some great defensive adjustments, limited Cade Cunningham's and Jalen Duren's effectiveness, and as a result, able to come away with that 3-1 lead. But a huge bounce back for Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. Pretty solid game. Only 4 of 6 shooting, but hey, when Cade's going to be taking over scoring like that, then the scoring isn't as required when it comes to Jalen Duren. 9 rebounds, 2 assists. Had 2 blocks as well, including a huge block in crunch time. So that was a worry sign for me as well, especially in game 4. It seemed like the Magic were not scared of Jalen Duren in the paint, protecting the rim, but he was making some big stops in the paint in this one. And for a little bit at least, it felt like the Pistons were kind of playing like the Pistons again that we've been accustomed to this whole season. Winning 60 games, being the number 1 seed in the East the entire year. Looked a little bit closer to that in this game. But tonight, this is going to be the big one. They got to go to Orlando. That's been a very tough place to play in this series for the Pistons for game 6. And it's the same deal. Pistons got to win if they want to stay alive in this series, but the Magic, they can move on. They can get the win. They can move on to the second round of the playoffs. But the Pistons, they know what they need to do. And at least in the last game, we finally got an example of the Pistons not only getting an early lead, but able to maintain that lead for the entire night. We were not getting that in the first couple of games. Whenever the Pistons had a lead, it felt like it was very short-lived and the Magic would just be right back into it. So that's at least a positive sign for me, getting this thing in the right direction. The ability to maintain a lead for long stretches, and of course the entire game in this case. But what have I said? It's about the adjustments, the counter adjustments, the counters to those counters. It's what these playoff series are like. So we saw the Pistons come out. All right, they come out with some offensive fire. Cade Cunningham being a lot more aggressive, just completely taking over. Now, how are the Magic going to respond? They're in front of their home crowd now. They're trying to close this thing out because you know the Magic don't want to be going back on the road. They don't want to be going to Detroit for Game 7. The Magic are going to be approaching this like they got to be approaching this like this is their Game 7 right here. You want to get this thing done in front of your home fans, a place where the Pistons have struggled in this series. So the Pistons, they when you build a lead, you got to keep it. Smarter decisions with your passes, with your shots, and keep playing that tough Pistons defense. And at this point, again, game by game at a time. You don't be thinking ahead to Game 7. It's about this one right here. Take it game by game, quarter by quarter, win each quarter. And then before you know it, hey, Game 7 coming up on Sunday. And then the Pistons, at that point, not only playing in front of their home crowd, but as I keep saying, all the pressure is going to be on the Orlando Magic to not blow it. Much more than the Pistons of, you want to avoid being taken down in the first round after being the number 1 seed, winning 60 games in the regular season. Even more than that pressure, the Magic's going to be facing the pressure of not wanting to be etched in NBA infamous history of blowing a 3-1 series lead. Don't want to have that happen. So a lot on the line, of course, being the Pistons' entire season. Tonight, tip-off is at 7. We'll have the live coverage right here on Jackson's Fox Sports 101.9 FM. And it looks like an Amazon Prime Video game once again because that's what we've all loved is watching NBA games on Amazon Prime Video. And then if the Pistons win, they'll be playing in Game 7 on Sunday. So the next time we chat on Monday, the Pistons will have either completed the 3-1 comeback or their season will be over. I really hope it's the first of those two options.
If you missed today's installment of On the Docket, podcast it at foxsports1019.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to tune in live weekdays at noon on Jackson's Fox Sports 101.9 FM.